everybody, and welcome to another episode of Romantic Dinner with the DM. The DM of the day, Trevor of Quick Summaries for Short Games. Wonderful, wonderful podcast. We suggest you check it out. I am Prime.
I am Arcad.
And Trevor.
Hey, what's up? It's me. I'm Trevor Robertson, the host for Quick Summaries for Short Games. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent.
We're excited to have you.
And what is your D&D Tinder bio?
Okay, I feel like this is not fair. I heard about this about 10 seconds ago.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm gonna make it clear. Okay, so Trevor Robertson, what he likes as a DM, what he's looking for, the first thing you're gonna see, heavy into platonic roleplay. Just absolutely love social situations. If you are a rule stickler for combat, swipe right or whatever the I don't want that is. I haven't had a dating profile in a while. I got married.
Don't worry, neither have we. That's why it's the funniest question.
Exactly. We're all just three uneducated people talking about Tinder.
I actually don't even know if you have a profile on it. Well, maybe.
No, I've never made one. I missed out.
Or like a bio.
I actually met my wife on OkCupid.
Nice.
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Excellent.
It kind of makes a lot of sense. But and so that's where, if you put that out there and those players, if you're a player listening to this and you're thinking, wow, I wish there was a DM out there who wanted what I want. They do exist. You just have to look. You have to find. Don't settle.
Yeah, don't settle. I'm sure there are Discords out there for that exact thing too.
There's gotta
Found out that there were for specifically for ska music. Apparently, my buddy runs a Discord with like hundreds of people where they're like, "Oh, what? You need a trumpet? Yeah, here, come here, Zach." So that's pretty awesome.
Amazing.
That's incredible. What?
Yeah.
Wait.
Wow.
But seeking musicians. At first, I thought it was like a support group.
What? No.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
If you're like, I want to start a band, I can play guitar and I have songs written, and you go into this Discord specifically, and they're like, okay, yeah, we have a drummer and we have horns and we have, so if you want to start a band, it's like just a little Tinder for ska music, and I think that's amazing. So that for D&D actually sounds incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, I love that exists for ska.
I also...
Dude, right? Specifically? Yeah.
Specifically for
right?
ska.
I also can't believe that I have a chance to use this today of all days. What a gift. But, I think it's really wonderful that there's that Discord for ska music, because I don't think that I could really support that for like orchestral music because of, all the sax and violins.
Oh my god. Well, that's the end of the podcast, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, no, you know what? This was fun. If you want an hour of this, go look at the episode of my podcast where these are guests.
Exactly.
These wonderful people.
It was Twitter. It's not my fault. I just saw that and I went, maybe. And then
the worst part is it took me a clean 5 seconds to really hear it and understand what you had just said. So
it fell into my lap. What was I to do? When the pun gods speak, the pun gods speak.
They do.
You had no choice. And as happens in my campaigns, for every bad pun, everyone except for the person who made it takes 1d4 of psychic damage. So
is that an actual thing?
Oh.
I found it's in a different podcast that is my favorite podcast, and I have adopted that immediately. It is incredible.
Okay, if RDM asterisk, if you're listening to this, we can't do that. He also gives inspiration to the person who made the joke. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
it is
so excited. Wait, this could
it helps you remember to actually give out inspiration, because a lot of DMs, me included, forget to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, ours loves to do it based on session recap. Whoever can recap the most from the previous session with the most detail gets inspiration. And if someone does a recap and then someone else adds on and it's a really pivotal piece, and he'll give out 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Right?
I always, as the DM, I really liked just having them recap as well. I'm like, okay, well, I've done my prep. Who remembers what happened last time?
I love that. That's a good way.
Yeah.
And speaking of the DM rules, responsibilities, and obligations, what made you want to DM a campaign?
Yeah, what made you want to take it all on?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so there's the lifelong tale of hey, let's play D&D, and everyone rushes into a circle. And then someone says, oh, okay, well, we need a DM. And then everyone rushes back out of the circle. And then someone finally says, okay, well, fine, I'll DM. And then everyone rushes back into the circle again. And then they say, wait, we're adults. We need to find time to do this once a week. And then everyone leaves the circle again. So we had done that song and dance, I mean, no fewer than 5 or 6 times. And someone else would try and DM, or they'd get too uncomfortable with it. We'd get busy. And so finally I just kind of said, I'm going to do one-shots. And I'm going to write this one-shot. And we're going to see where it goes. And I did the same one for my first group of people, and they loved it. Did it for the second group, and they were like, yeah. Did it for the third group, and they're like, can we continue this as a campaign, please? And I said, I've never DM'd anything other than this before. So I grabbed Lost Minds of Phandelver, the first, like not first, but the official kind of first DMs module, essentially. It's good for beginners, either as a PC or as a DM. There's plenty of stories and arcs and characters and NPCs and a lot of vague wiggle room to kind of create your own stuff in there.
Okay.
So
and did you end up using a lot of that wiggle room?
I loved, yes. I actually, prep was a very weird thing. And I'm sure we can talk about that later or whatever, but prepping for me is a very weird ritual that I think kind of deviates from the norm. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you literally hit right on it. That's kind of what we were going to lead into. So, like between when you were doing this one and now, you said that was the first campaign. Is that still the one that's ongoing?
No, right now I'm on hiatus, unfortunately. But for the, yeah, well, so I just did another one-shot recently. So I'm still putting in DM work when I can here and there because I can't stop. I love it way too much.
So when the last time then, so when you were doing it regularly or even for the one shots, was it something where, you found yourself like putting in a ton of work? Was it like more than expected, less than expected? And how much of it was just like flying by the seat of your pants?
So I have ADD and anxiety. So I kind of assume that like even the smallest of tasks is going to be a massive undertaking. Like I can't read. Okay, I can read. That's not what I meant. I can't read large walls of text and retain anything. I can't do it for whatever reason. It's just blind to me, no matter how interested I am in most cases. Mm-hmm. So what I had to do was, I work for FedEx, and so I'm driving most of the time. So I had wireless earbuds. I'd put one in, and I would go find a video where someone just explains the campaign module that I'm running, and I would listen to it over and over and over. And I would, the whole time, again, because ADD just makes you tangent mentally, I would just kind of, okay, well, wait, that's an interesting character. So I would just think. I would think and pray to God I remembered the parts that I liked. And if I got a second and I would literally get on my phone and just write a note, just one sentence. Chad and Jennifer, old married couple, on their way falling out. Okay, I need voices for them. Okay, so I don't want to do this anymore. Well, I think if you took me a little more seriously, you could. And I'll just bigger with myself back and forth. And like if I find a voice that I love, or 2 voices, I just write down 2 or 3 like words or sentences, and then I pick up my box and deliver it to a house, and then I get back in my truck and I try to remember where the fuck I'm going next. And it's just that over and over.
That's incredible. Like that actually is one of the most amazing creative processes I've ever heard of.
Yeah, that was like a treat in and of itself. I can't even imagine the characters you develop for your players. Oh my God.
It's a lot of fun. You hear a voice or an accent that you can't do and you think, well, I'm alone in a truck for 10 hours. What else am I going to do? And it's either that or just kind of do it throughout the house to annoy my wife as much as I can. And she loves me and puts up with the voice as much as possible. But there are just some voices that I can't stop doing now just because of that one campaign. And it's a bit of a nightmare. I'm not really big on revealing all of my voices at once, but this is what I can't stop doing. I'll do it at sea. I'll be like, "What do you want to do tonight?" And it's just that back and forth. D&D kind of took over my life in a weird way.
That's something we seem to hear a lot from DMs. It's like our DM, who we obviously talk to fairly regularly,
of course,
explains how it's like basically any waking minute where he isn't actively thinking about something else, right? Like be it work or driving, whatever it might be, right?
Of course.
Every moment other than that is spent thinking about his campaign and his characters and his everything. And it seems to that seems to be very pervasive amongst the people of this hobby,
Well, and I would say
absolutely.
And for players too, because I mean, I think the thing with a DM who really, because obviously it is a lot of work and it is a lot of time and it is a lot of effort. But I think that when you have a DM where like the passion, right, like it's such a labor of love, I think that goes into the players as well. Because it's hilarious. Our DM talks about how he spends every waking moment looking up D&D stuff, but we spend every waking every time that we have a down second or I'll look over at our cat, I'm like, oh hey, what you doing? Looking up spells.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing how that goes.
Oh, I have many times. I'm not okay. Like I am a paranoid person in general, but not like conspiracy theory paranoid. It's more of there have been times where I've spent the last 6 hours literally just kind of like, oh yeah, man, and then like. So I'm going to try to do this. This is how I'm going to try and talk and do my best. And hey guys. But then I'll just do that for forever. And at one point I'm like, hey guys, I know you guys at FedEx are listening to me through the pad right now. I just want to say, hey, how's it going? I hope you guys are doing all right. And but I'll start talking to dispatch as if anyone can hear me because yeah.
That's amazing.
Being alone for those periods of time will do stuff to you, especially when you've gotten comfortable talking to yourself.
Yep.
It is, yeah.
You just like open the door.
Dangerous to go back into the wild.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh,
my poor wife.
Well, it's constant entertainment, though. You can't deny that. I mean,
that's fair.
You can't be having a bad day when suddenly your husband might turn into a random Australian, gnome artificer. I have no idea what the actual character is, of course, but I mean,
of course,
got to blur the lines of reality and D&D just a little bit,
just a
smidge.
It's magical realism.
Yeah,
it is.
So for you, what is an ideal outcome for a session with your players?
I mean, I feel like that's fairly open-ended, but in general, I mean, you want everyone to have a couple good laughs. I value comedy in D&D almost more than anything else. Mm-hmm. You want an NPC who's been well-received or at least immersive enough to where they took them seriously. You want some combat that doesn't drag, because for me, combat drags a lot. I don't enjoy combat nearly as much as any of the other aspects of D&D, but every session, it's good to either end on, say, like a long rest or a cliffhanger if you can manage it, but because time management is a little bit finicky with D&D, certain things you're like, well, that was supposed to take 4 minutes, and then 2 hours later, you haven't left the tavern.
Yep.
So... just as long as everyone kind of walked away with something, like if you can get away with each of them having a good moment or joke that made everyone laugh or something, queuing them up for one kind of really cool moment for them, I think everyone's going to walk away happy.
Okay. So, and I think like the inclusion of having like, a lot of comedy. Like I understand, there's some folks for whom it is like purely a serious endeavor, but I think I'd get in a lot of trouble if I couldn't crack jokes during a D&D session.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'd be banned from the table immediately.
Would be.
Like before before the game even started, like logging into Roll20, I'm out.
Yeah. You can't deal 30 psychic damage to the entire table before we start the game. Like, can we I would die without it. Taking D&D too seriously, like it can be taken really seriously, and there can be really good dark moments, and like I love mixing comedy with drama and with loss and other stuff as well. It just has to be generally lighthearted throughout until we're getting to something that is supposed to be intentionally dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with those dark moments, especially because the comedy is so important and because, it's very important that everybody walks away feeling like, yeah, they just had a real experience. How do you keep your players kind of like in a safe mental headspace if you're dealing with, some of those hard themes, like a lot of D&D stories do tend to have like real world I'd say parallels or like ramifications in a way. And
Of course.
yeah, how do you keep your players in the right kind of headspace going through that?
Well, okay, so even certain modules nowadays that contain hard topics will kind of suggest sitting down with your players and saying, okay, so here's a session 0. Here are some of the themes and topics that are expected. I can speak goodly words that we are expected to come across. And if there's anything here that you can't deal with or anything, you can set up a safe word. You can set up a lot of different stuff that really helps them out. But I'm going to get one thing out right now, and I really think a lot of people should just take this little nugget of knowledge as if it's not obvious and keep it in their back pocket. I do not allow any kind of sexual assault or harassment in NPCs, PCs, backstory, anything. Mm-hmm. This is a place of escape, and it can be something that, like, for one character, maybe it's some kind of catharsis or whatever, but I still just think that that existing in itself will kind of bring the mood down in a really uncomfortable way. And it's not just your character that you're responsible for when you're at the table with a bunch of other people. We are here to be the happiest we can be, because D&D is one of the greatest experiences that we can possibly have.
Yeah.
And so that's just just to get a little more serious on that, I needed to get that out of the way, because when I think keeping your players mentally safe, we all know of horror stories with really shitty railroad DMs and PCs that are getting weird, and I just it's just
So no time for it.
Yeah, none at all. So to put a kibosh on that section right there, there's one other thing that I think really helps. If you're not gonna go out of your way to make a safe word or to warn them about this or that or whatever, because you have a group of people who are going to take whatever's thrown at them, the best thing you can do is to help them and ensure that they develop a kinship and trust amongst each other, not just as friends in real life, but they're players. Mm-hmm. If they have their backs to the wall, but they're together, they can handle a lot more shit, a lot more dark stuff, a lot more. If they can look over to their left or their right and see that person has their back in and out of game, it makes it, I don't know, there's just something more satisfying about getting to throw that dark stuff at them and watch them overcome it.
I think it's like that strength of community, like when they become a real, like you said, both in and out of game, just like an actual cohesive unit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that too. And I think it's that idea of, with those dark themes too, there is always a way to do something in a really, really thoughtful way, in a really empathetic way. And then there is generally a way to do it in a very, very just frustrating crude way.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And I think
of course,
with certain things, it's like, you do just need to put your foot down and be like, no, like, there is no need for this in my game or in my world. There are other ways that you can have a catharsis without having to bring that sort of level of, potential mental endangerment to the table, I think. Mm-hmm. There are metaphors, there are monsters that you can work with that can be a metaphor for things. You don't need to, like, enter trauma into a game.
No.
Certain kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, I've made multiple PCs, like characters of mine, asexual, just because I think it just kind of creates a fun dynamic, but it also sets like an immediate, like, no, you're not gonna have to worry about literally anything like from my character. I'm not gonna be that bard that goes and hits on everyone. I'm not gonna I'm just gonna go play some D&D and just say some weird shit. That's what I'm all about.
That's excellent. And I think that's really cool too, because it also has the benefit of being like inclusive as well, because a lot of folks don't think to include that into the sexuality spectrum, right? It's like, oh, everybody needs to be a this or a that or be interested in, and it's just like, you know what? No, that's not the case. And in fact, like platonic role play and friendships and building are, if not equally important to romantic ones. So
yeah, definitely.
Of course.
And I think that's where it's like D&D can in some ways kind of end up as an educational tool if used carefully and if everyone's on board with it in the right way. Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, there's some folks who just understand better when it's a medium that is comfortable to them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And so when you're fostering that kind of dynamic where you're, as a DM, I would assume, trying to create a situation where you can see those players grow and bond and come to support each other. And so what does a dream campaign look like for you in terms of, the party, the length, the progression, the story, just all of that? Like your dream campaign.
Well, okay, so again, there's a lot, because an ideal campaign is like, fuck, man, just one where I've got me and 4 other people and we're just loving it. But as far as length, I like a good 50, 60 hours. I like 3 to 4 hour sessions once a week. That's my sweet spot. I think 4 hours for me personally drags.
That's fair.
I know that I'm weird in this, but I am very thankful that I got to do all of my DMing through Discord and Roll20. I'm not a big fan of eye contact. I really like having both my monitors up, because I'm basically just the kid in the chair, like the hacker computer man the entire time, alt-tabbing and swapping windows over left and right so I can find the information I need to. And then I'm constantly like control F'ing rules and stuff, because I can't do that with books the same way I can with my computer. Exactly. So if I could bring my whole setup to D&D, then yeah, I'd be fine. But who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So
that resonates really strongly, I think,
like
with both
same.
of us.
So same.
Yeah, like I know I've never played D&D other than online. The first campaign I was in was on a Twitch stream, actually. And
wow.
And then a couple of offline ones after that. But it was like, I see all this nostalgia and this love for the physical tabletop, and I would never want to take that away from the people who have that love. But I can't help but feel like for me and for you, I know, and for you as well, Trevor, it must feel like it is a comfort to be in your own space, in your own home, and yet going on this journey with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say, as much as I like playing online, you can pry my dice from my cold, dead hands.
That's very fair.
Super fair. I mean, you can't put electronic dice. You can't put Roll20 dice in dice jail. What do you do when they're doing you dirty?
Oh, you just have to suffer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just pray, you cry. There's not much you can do. You pray to whatever deity you've chosen in the Forgotten Realms.
Yep. You just never hit. Ever. Not once.
Not
ever.
So... this is the time, Trevor, when we've got to ask if you would like to play a game.
What are you, Jigsaw?
No. This one. So I think we already mentioned this one should be happening. So this is where you have 1 minute to explain your campaign or your most recent one to a stranger who has never heard of D&D. And now, since you're not doing a current campaign, maybe you have to introduce the idea of D&D to them in a minute.
I was going to say, because I had some questions.
Yeah.
If it's just D&D in general, that is, okay, that's fairly simple. I think we can all go on tangents to explain what D&D is.
All right. Are you ready for the part of the show where you have 1 minute to show what you know about D&D?
I just want to say this hostage improv is bullshit, and I support it 100%. That is one of the best parts about D&D.
Excellent.
Ready?
Love the yes and go.
So D&D is essentially take your favorite video game and then rip it wide open. You can do anything you want to do. You can tell your DM that you want to do something really, really stupid, like take your fanny pack of holding and you want to put it over... that lets you can put anything inside the bag, right? And it's just limitless. Amazing. So you put it on something's head, and then you rip the bag, and that sends whatever's in the bag to the quantum realm. That's all random bullshit. You don't have to know what any of that means. You can do it in D&D. It's role play, it's combat, it's socializing, where you have one person tell a story through a narrative, and you've got a bunch of players who are working together in whatever class, wizard, cleric, rogue. You want to be a dumbass barbarian? You go for it. You can be a smart barbarian. Who gives a shit? You can do anything you want in this game. It's the narrative, you can have a character arc. You can live a different life and not be looking at a screen as a video game character. You're not stuck to rigid rules if you have a DM who says yes and or yes but. It is the perfect medium for entertainment, in my opinion, if you have just a couple of friends. Did I go over a minute?
Time,
You did, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I didn't want to stop you. You were on a beautiful.
Perfection. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, I'm getting out of this elevator. Thank you. I don't know why you're here. This is a Wendy's, but I'll check out your game.
I have a sudden need to find dodecahedrons.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. And so now let's talk about those who might have an expertise in the game or those who don't, because the question is, what's your favorite level range to DM for?
Okay, so because my only full real campaign was Lost Mines with some extra content added in and out and through and afterwards, I've gotten my PCs to level 6. I know that there's a lot more to go after that, where, you know, the game levels 1 and 2 are basically like survival horror, and then after 5 or 6 you basically start to turn into an Avenger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I quickly realized by the end of that campaign that I was way out of my realm. Forgotten. Okay. In terms of balance and combat mechanics and how to deal with my bullshit Circle of the Shepherd druid who could only get hit if you crit. That guy was a bane in my goddamn existence, which I'll have to talk about that later. But I've forgotten the question because I was so mad at him and his character.
What? This might be the moment. Tell us about this character.
Yeah, tell
What's
us
going on
everything.
with this guy?
Okay, so in Lost Mines of Phandelver, there is a character who has a staff of shield or something to that effect. And what that staff does is, as long as you're holding it, it's like 3 times per short rest or long rest or something, you can add like +3 or 4 to your AC.
Okay.
They killed this person, obviously. And I was like, yeah, it's looking through the rules, a shield of blah, 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 so-and-so. So immediately, my friend, who is very much a min-maxer, he's running a Circle of the Shepherd druid who is already weirdly beefy. He rolled really, really well. He had a crazy high AC. And he also had, I don't remember what move that let him, on top of this shield that he now had, it let him increase his AC for whatever reason, or like have his damage. So unless I rolled like a 24 or higher, at least 3 times per long rest, he would just kind of say, no. So there were times this little fucker said to me, he's like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to need this a little bit later. So I'd be like, okay, he'd be like, okay, you know, roll to hit on me, I guess. What'd you get? And I'd say 19. And every once in a while he'd go, I'll allow it.
Oh my God. This guy was like, he saw the power dynamic. He's like, dungeon master.
Yeah, see, I don't think so. One of my best friends in the world, amazing dude. He helped me along the way, but it was the whole campaign was just a fucking blast. And having him as a powerhouse that I just at one point stopped attacking. And then you know what he did to spite me? He had pack tactics, and something in that allowed him to have a literal 6 to 8 velociraptors with like 25 HP, 30 HP, and he would just swarm anything he wanted dead.
This dude is a legend.
It was, I don't know how he spec'd this character to do what he wanted to, but in one of the last fights that we did, I like puns, and I really wanted to create my own magical items, and at one point I had them unlock some shit, and so I gave them one character, and I had no idea it was going to be this powerful at the time, but I gave him what I called the Sabrina spell slot, and I can see you're captivated already. But
I'm so ready to hear.
Once per long rest, you can give anyone but yourself one extra spell slot to use. So that's it. You just give one extra. You're just like, oh, hey, Warlock, I know you've used yours because you don't have many. Here's an extra spell slot you can use right now.
Wow.
So at one point, one of the bosses eviscerated all this dude's raptors, barely, like hanging on by a thread. I knew that this druid had used all of his pack tactics and his spell slots and his whatever.
Yeah.
And he whispers over in Discord to another person they joined a different channel because I was streaming. He's like, wait, we're going to go on the secret channel. And I'm like, okay. So they do that. They come back and he says, oh, and Tolan says, okay, so I want to use the Sabrina spell slot to give Rhett the druid pack tactics again. And I just walked away from my computer.
Oh my God. Oh, you poor man.
Wow.
Oh,
That's amazing. Like, I'm so sorry, but wow.
It was incredible. I will attribute it to my, it was my first time DMing a full campaign, but it's still just, honestly, it was a blast. I loved every second. I loved that they were too strong rather than too weak, and they got to keep their characters and their friendships, and they were all super supportive of each other, and they used their characters to the max potential when some of the others maybe couldn't or took a little bit longer trying to figure out what move should I use, what should I do here, and they're all like, you could do that over there. They were just really, I let them meta a little bit to help each other out, and I don't know. It was amazing. I wouldn't take back anything other than maybe beefing up a couple NPCs.
Fair enough. And I mean, I think it's like it makes so much sense. Like people play games with their friends, right? Like let's take like Monster Hunter, for example. You can play Monster Hunter with your friends. and if one person is like pretty strong, like quite a bit stronger than the others, it kind of it isn't so bad because not everybody's out there looking for like the most bare bones, down to the wire challenge every single time. Some people are there.
I want a guided tour with snacks through Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Don't at me.
Dude,
it's okay if others don't, but I do.
Yeah.
I am so on that same. Oh, we talked about this on mine as well. Yeah. I would love the Monster Hunter beefy friend treatment in Dark Souls. I'd be smitten with that, to quote a now problematic movie. But I really would just love to have a friend kind of. Sorry, I'm going off track now. Now you've got me on Monster Hunter Dark Souls mode.
Hey, you know what? Everything goes here. That's the best part about it. And trust, it's beautiful.
Why am I wearing pants then?
Yeah, exactly. Get them off.
Yeah, what you doing?
Yeah, because
we're not even in the same room.
Yeah, jeez. Actually, on Friday, we were filming for our Dark Souls series, and I ended up it's Dark Souls 1 spoilers if anyone hasn't played through it yet, but I ended up in Anor Londo. I had no arrows, and I'd been cheesing everything the whole game up to this point with my freaking arrows, and I get there and I'm out, and one of our friends in the chat who just lives for pain and suffering is laughing his head off. He's like, you're gonna suffer finally, like you're not gonna be able to get away. And I was just like, so I did for about like 45 minutes. I suffered, and then a friend came
he was
in.
right.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I suffered, and then a friend came in, dropped me 400 arrows, and he goes, why would you do that?
Oh my.
She wants the guided tour.
Exactly.
That is incredible.
It was beautiful.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's like, I look at it this way. It's like, if those kind of campaigns and those kind of experiences with video games didn't exist, then those people wouldn't play those games, And
absolutely. Or they'd come away with an experience that wasn't what it could have been.
Yeah,
exactly.
And like, you want your friends to have fun. Sometimes, you want to watch them struggle. Of course, that's why we all play D&D. But you also want to see them succeed. And so I get that. It's like, sometimes you let your friends create crazy, wacky characters that you can do nothing to. But you get an amazing story out of it. So really, everybody wins.
It's true.
Yeah. I actually, speaking of weird, wacky characters, I just recently, it was like a week ago, ran a one-shot for a couple people. I had never run this before. And one person made a character that is so off the wall and unique that I feel like I need to share it here.
Please,
is that cool?
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Yes. Go.
Okay. So... Okay, I wrote this down. I need to go find it. I can describe him to the T from memory, but I feel like I wrote it down better than I'll describe it. Can't find it. Fuck it. So this was an Aarakocra. An Aarakocra, bird person who can fly. But this Aarakocra was raised in a village of Kinkus, also another bird, but a flightless bird that is a humanoid race. Yeah. So the weird gimmick with this stupid fucking character was so full disclosure, there's a Discord full of super good homies that all do radio work, and they all have soundboards. So every once in a while, I'll say something that can be taken out of context, and nothing you say is safe. Nothing is sacred. I will, to this day, 3 times a week, I hear me from the one time I said it about a video game. It's fun when you beat it.
So I'm guessing these were the folks in this one shot.
Yes.
Yes.
So this man went. Okay, he went and he downloaded like 30 to 50 bird sounds and then decided what they all meant to himself. Now, this is a one-shot. We don't have time to go and try and dissect and figure out. I'm the DM, so I'm just sitting here laughing my ass off as this poor man who has never played D&D tries to deal with that shit, and then one other guy is playing the most chaotic goblin I've ever met in my life. And this, so the whole time they're like, hey, what do you think we should do? And then Dylan would just hit a key on a soundboard and you'd hear a guttural, weird woodpecker machine noise. And then the next one would be like a delightful hoot. He went and described and wrote it all down, what each one means. Like he labeled them all and he went through the effort. And it was a complete disaster. It was so good. I was having the most fun time of my life. But he also, there's something so special about this character because at one point we get to the end of this dungeon and oh god, that's a whole thing. I'm going to make this as quick as I can because I still think it was the funniest thing anyone's done in a campaign that I've been a part of. We get to this place where I set up this reveal that everything is like not what it seems, and like they basically just went and slaughtered all these bugbears adopted goblin children, and so there has to be a fight. Yeah, it's really like comedy with dark. That's my style. So he gets ready to fight, and his partner walks out wearing like a Kiss the Chef apron, and so there's the kitchen, and it's established. So immediately he goes, okay, so I fly to the kitchen. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I fly to the kitchen. And I'm like, we're in combat. He goes, yeah, okay. I say, okay. And I say, so what do you want to do for your action? And he goes, I want to wash my hands. And I said, well, technically washing your hands, you have to sing the entirety of the happy birthday song to fully get off, as many germs as possible. But I'll give it to you in one turn. 6 seconds, fine. Just a quick hand washing. And one person goes, why are you washing your hands right now? And he goes, I need to wash the blood of their children off of my hands. So his next move is to fly 60 feet across the next room. He reaches the end of his 60 feet of movement in flight. And I go, okay, so you're at the end of the room. Like, they can still get you. What do you want to do? And he looks me dead in the eye and goes, I use my dash action to sprint. And he leaves the fucking dungeon and leaves the rest of the party to die to these bugbears. It was immaculate. I've never seen anything like it, and it's the perfect place for it is a one-shot, and I just respect everything about how much effort he put into this stupid, incredible character.
That's fantastic.
That's beautiful. That was art. That was poetry.
You're right. I'm so happy that character was only in a one-shot.
Exactly. Oh, I today, because I'm doing another one-shot for them, I had to specifically say, and this isn't because of Dylan, but you cannot have flight on this next one shot.
I mean, fair enough. Now, that actually leads to a good question. What are your hard no's for character creation? Are there any subclasses besides this one that have broken your game?
Yeah. So, no, circle is shepherd druids. No, so...
No, 6 velociraptors. I can't get over that. Anyways.
I know. I loved it so much. So... as far as characters and all that, not really, because I haven't DM'd enough to really pinpoint any of that. I just know that I need to get better as a DM. But I do have hard nose, or I have in certain campaigns, about alignments. For a while, I wouldn't allow lawful good characters because I'm sick of the paladin and the rogue squabbling when we've got important shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
The rogue goes to steal something and the paladin's got to like literally stop everything down to a halt and be like, you give that man back his things. And then you're like, okay, we got to do this again. And it's a silly reason to kind of just put a kibosh on that alignment as a whole, because it can be done well. And I think that now I have the ability to at least talk with people about what's going to halt the campaign, what's going to stop things. But for a while, that was it. I've actually had some really good experiences with evil characters, like even lawful evil was amazing. I had a friend named Jerain, who played a lawful evil paladin who just wanted to slaughter the unclean, which is anything that wasn't. He was a racist paladin. That was it. He was a racist paladin, but he promised not to let his alignment and his views and goals, get in the way of the party doing what they needed to do. So at this point, if you talk to people in a session 0 or even just multiple times throughout the campaign, chances are you're going to be fine. You just have to be like, okay, well, that breaks some bullshit. And so I don't know if I want to derail the entire campaign like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I kind of just think I let anything go now, because I'm like, well, there's nothing. I'm literally about to slip my characters, my PCs, a deck of many things. But I'm going to call it the NC Domped, which is the non-consensual deck of many things, because someone's going to trick them into pulling them out like a magic trick. And if you know anything about the deck of many things, you have to intentionally say how, like, I am doing this on purpose and choosing this many. So I'm going to, it's a modified version of the deck of many things. So at this point, I'm inciting chaos.
Very good. For those of us who maybe don't know what the deck of many things is and how it relates to D&D, can you like super quickly explain that?
Absolutely. So the deck of many things, there are 22 cards, and they can do a wide variety of bullshit that can and will derail your entire campaign. There are 2 cards that one of them is, I think, called Don John, which teleports you away, and you without like a wish spell, you can't figure out where the fuck they went. You summon an avatar of death that's like difficult as hell to fight. You have to 1v1 him, and if anyone else helps you in any way, it spawns another avatar of death for that person who tried to help you. So it's this chain of fighting death. There's a wish spell where you can get 1 to 3 wishes to do almost anything. There's 22 cards that fucking will annihilate your campaign and derail it. One of them, suddenly you have a little bit more charisma and you own a small castle somewhere in the land. One of them is what equates to like $14 million worth of gems and gold will fall at your feet instantly. There's some absurd stuff. But the smallest tangent in the world, there's a podcast I listen to called Dungeons and Daddies that they just did this recently, and it's literally just all non-consensual deck pulling in a certain episode, and it's the funniest thing in the world. But they also just came out with a deck of many things that they called the deck of daddy things, where they have the original 22 and then wrote their own 22 wild nonsensical cards. So I'm going to be slipping these into the hands of my players very soon.
Oh my god.
That's amazing. I guess that's kind of like the nice thing with, especially when you're doing sort of shorter campaigns or you have like a shorter time span in mind, it's like you can just do anything.
Yeah, these sound like shit crazy and I'm here for it. Like I love it.
Like I have a lot of questions that are normally like trying to find like the weirdest things in the weirdest times, but it's like I'm just going through my list going, skip, he already did it, skip, like all these stories are so incredible.
Yeah.
Well, it's not me or the stories that I've done anything about. It's D&D. That's why we're here.
Yes.
Dungeons and Dragons is just so insane if you don't follow the rules to a T. It is. I'm a big believer in not just the rule of cool, but the rule of preposterous cool. And my biggest thing is we have to yes and we have to know but one of the most important things in the world as a DM is yes but. Like just, hey, can I do this? Yes, but here's how it needs to work, because either I don't know the rules or there are no rules, and also I'm your daddy tonight, so we're going to do whatever I want to. Only in the context of Dungeons and Dragons. This is 110% platonic.
Absolutely. So
I love that.
Yeah, you just end up, because that's exactly it. It's like you just kind of have to you kind of have to take it and just go with whatever. I love anything that makes that happen. To go off on a tiny tangent,
please do. I've talked far too much so far.
Oh, well, you'll love this, I think. So my character in our campaign is this wild magic sorcerer who is a violently magenta. Actually, we should share the screenshot and we can maybe post it in some way with this podcast. I'm not entirely sure how it'll work.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But So he's this violently magenta man with white hair, and he's dresses with all these scarves and stuff, and he has a magical coat that our DM gave me very early on. And the way the coat works is twice per day, I can reach inside my coat looking for something. And the something can be pretty wide-ranging, as it turns out.
Nothing living, apparently. We'll get in big trouble if we do that, allegedly.
Apparently something bad happens. My character hasn't tried that yet. But you can reach in there and you can grab anything of 50 gold or less. And he told me when he gave me this item, he's like, technically, yes. If you wanted to, you could pull out like 2 healing potions every day and make sure you did it. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but I'm not going to do that. So instead, it's like I've been pulling out like baked goods. I've pulled out a brick that I then subsequently threw
at a bandit
at a bandit's face while pretending to be a traveling oven and stove salesman.
The fanciest butter you've ever seen in your darn life. 50 gold worth of butter, 1 brick from a fancy ass town.
That is incredible.
It's so fun. And that's the thing. It's like, sure, you can follow. That's even the thing. It's like, even if you have the option to do the most like technically best thing or most like efficient thing, it's like, take the road less traveled by sometimes. It's like you can just do so many more fun, silly things.
Absolutely. Like, I would wager it's technically probably the least efficient like use of an artificer to have 2 random metal beasts that can't even both go on a turn, but damn it, that's what she wants.
That's what she wants.
I know what she wants. I talked to her when I created her. She wanted to not even do any combat and just be surrounded by metal beasts. I'm making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfect.
Tiny metal bee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've come to realize that there seem to be 2, I guess 3, you can count the in-betweeners. They get say 2, but there are very much people who are like, I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to be, I'm going to know the rules, and I'm going to try and be like the best at my combat and min-max my stuff, and that's fun, and that's great. And then there are the people who throw it out the fucking window. There are those people who their only intention is to obfuscate any of the railroading the DM tries to do. You can put this, and this in front of the DM, and there are those people who say, I walk backwards. And those are my favorite people in the world. Those are the people who make D&D worth it for me. And so you saying, fuck fighting, metal beasts are my bitch. I'm going to wild magic some weird shit out of my coat twice a day. I don't care about potions. Let's get a brick.
Yeah.
Made of butter?
Exactly. Anything and everything. I think I once used it. The only time was our most recent session where there was one of our characters has a revenant chasing him because of a sword he owns, and acquired, and so every so often this revenant like finds its way to us again after we kill it, and it's like fixated on this one character, and so all of us basically just try and stop this revenant while we hack it to pieces. And in this most recent occasion, it happened while we're on a boat, and my character is a wild magic sorcerer, and he's already had the fireball happen, so he's so scared in certain situations of like hurting his friends and the people around him, so he hesitates from actually using the magic, so he reaches inside his coat looking for quote unquote something that will hurt this guy, and he pulls out a vial of holy water which he pours onto his head.
Oh my, that is verbatim how I feel looking at my character sheet in combat as a PC, because I've never studied anything. I picked some things like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and it's my turn in combat, and all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, what can I pull out of my ass to try and make something happen? Just frantic searching.
Yeah, that's honestly pretty much how I fly too. I've got 3 character sheets. They're all pretty random. Like everything, like I'll look at spells, like when our DM's like, oh, you can take another feat or whatever. And I'll look at some things and I'll be like, oh yeah, objectively that's the most damage. That doesn't make sense with my character. Let's take this fucking random thing.
Yep, let's do this. This will be fun. And it always is.
It always is. So to circle actually around a little bit then. So given that there's this, with a lot of the campaigns you've worked with on or that you've done, and you've had these sort of like shorter areas with people who have, varying levels of experience, varying levels of, as you put it, obfuscation going in.
Of course.
How do you or how have you handled like conflicts or disagreements between those players? And well, there's a second part to this that we'll touch on in a second, but like in terms of like disagreements between the actual like players themselves or conflicts over things, how do you sort of take care of that?
So I've been fairly lucky when it comes to this. I also, in part because I don't choose people who I can't be around, for long periods of time to be in a D&D campaign. But when things happen like that, it's so much easier if they're being a complete asshole, because you can just be like, hey man, we are here to have fun. There's zero other reason for us to be here right now. You are making things real bad for everyone. Just you need to cool off. You're gonna take off tonight. We're gonna continue this session. Your guy got knocked unconscious. Who cares? We'll save you. You won't die. But if you need to talk to me about something in private, we can do that. But right now, I don't know what's going on. It's just not. This isn't cool. So that's a lot easier. But when it's like my specific situation that I think of as a DM is I've got one dude who, nicest guy in the world, has the loudest fucking voice I have ever heard. He's one of those people who he too was in a punk band, and I don't think he ever wore earplugs because he can't tell when he's speaking loudly. He has a naturally loud voice and just can't hear his fluctuation, but he also tends to talk over people. And towards the end of D&D nights, some of us are drinking, some of us are maybe partaking in the devil's lettuce. And, if we're doing both, it can get a little bit dicey. I, as a DM, will have a couple beers because I need to make sure I've got my head on straight. But for them, as long as they're not getting crazy, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But it can, again, towards the end of the night, it definitely can get a little, he's talking over people and maybe it's that person's time to have their arc or their role play, and he'll step on it. And again, it's always well-intentioned. We're just excited. We only get to do this once a week for like 3 hours, 2.5 hours sometimes. Mm-hmm. So you really, in those cases, you need to go and just be like, look, man, I realize I'm not an actual position of authority, but you're stepping on a couple toes. I'm not going to say who. It's, it might be one person or more than one person, but I will say we need to work on just your self-awareness when it comes to letting other people play, because, we're not all getting our time here to shine. And other than that, there's never been like a fight. There's never been, if anyone's angry in my campaign, it's because I created the greatest villain ever. No, I didn't, but I love the fuck out of playing him. So, but that's it. They're angry at my NPC I created, and then they just love each other until he kind of steps on their toes towards the end of the night.
Fair enough.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's I have to admit, what you like, you're I don't know what to call it other than like a dressing down, just like, hey, this isn't working. You're knocked out, whatever, you won't die. Like, talk to me later. That might be the best, like, straight up just getting it sorted out of the way right away kind of method I think I've ever heard of. Like, yeah. I see, like, we're very fortunate as well. We're playing with friends, people we've known for, varyingly long degrees of time, right? And we all, of course, get along very well. But it's like, I can imagine, if you're listening to this and you're like, you're thinking of DMing your first campaign, but the only people you found are folks through Reddit, something like that. That I feel like
I know some of that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like that's who that advice is for. Like, keep that
absolutely
close to your heart, because I think that is going to save you a lot.
Honestly, like, that I think is my favorite answer, because it's one of those things where, like, I love D&D so much, but the thing is when you spend, like, especially when you are so passionate about it, right? And when you're passionate about the story that you're telling as a DM, and as a character, when you're passionate about the story that you are trying to create for your character, like, sometimes folks can step on other folks' toes. But I think that the thing of it is it always feels like bigger in the moment with D&D, right? Because when you're actually in it and you're playing the game, like, I don't know if it is like this for everybody, but you kind of become your character. Yeah. And so when you feel like your character's being railroaded, like, it's a certain amount of, like, emotional or annoyance that comes out. And generally, if you can just, if you're going over the top and you get the, hey, take a break, like, walk away, or if you just have time to simmer, I feel like that's just always so much better. Like, than letting somebody just run with, like, being, being a problem for the table. Because then everyone leaves feeling bad. Everyone's kind of like, oh, well, why did we let this happen? Like, why did this? So I think that's a really good way to address it.
Yes.
Really.
Well, thank you. I just there's something really uncomfortable about having to be some kind of weird authority for your literal peers when especially when we're playing make believe. And so if you explain it in those terms in any other, like, try to explain to your therapist, she's like, okay, so you're like you're in charge of your friends playing make believe, and one of them was a little bit too loud or said like a mean thing in a game where you're killing everyone. Okay, well, yeah, when you say it like that, it makes us sound a little bit ridiculous, but it was a real moment of contention, okay? So
Yeah.
And like,
you're the therapist here.
right? And I think the thing is, though, like, as a DM, you know, it's weird, of course, you don't want to like have to be an authority, but I do think you kind of have to be a mediator sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Of course.
that's definitely the role, right? So
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
We were talking about this with some folks through chat on Twitch the other night, but it's like, you know, when you're like both DMs and players are playing the game, everybody's a player in that sense, but it's like
The DM just gets to play it way more, and it fucking rules. It whips ass.
and like almost a whole other game. It's like you know,
it's
that
a
Mario
different game.
3D world, how it had the two games bundled in. It's like we're out
Yeah.
here playing the 2-person option where the second player just kind of floats a bit. You're out here playing like the 3D on hard mode, trying to go 100% it.
While also playing Mario Sunshine. Yeah, you're like you're juggling a bunch of bullshit and answering questions, and you're in the zone, and then you hear the dreaded sentence. I have a question for the DM. What the fuck do you want right now? Do you not see what we're doing?
we're in the middle of something, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I've got a quick little not a throwaway one here, but like a quick one that I'm just curious on your take on, because it's like you've got kind of like this with the things you've done and the campaigns you've run, these one shots and these sort of like shorter form ones. Have there been moments where like your characters, for one reason or another, maybe it's like good natured, maybe it's like an actual feud, have you encountered a moment where you've had to handle like PvP in your campaigns? And if you haven't, what are your kind of thoughts on that as a whole, and like how would you integrate it, or would you even integrate it?
Okay, so I've thought a lot about different questions and what I want to say. I very clearly wrote a lot of stuff down that I got really excited about. I have not written anything down along these lines, but to this day, I will never forget this, because I was not the DM. I was a PC, and I was drinking a little bit, and it was with one of my best friends in the world, and I think we were both just a little bit hard-headed. And like it was at a time where like he gets really weirdly competitive, and then we had my cousin who was like, you know, we were just thirsty for D&D, and at one point we're like, yeah, let's fuck around and like we'll just kind of PvP our characters, or, you know, rogue versus monk or something, which comes down to a literal die roll. Like it's just a 50-50. Can you do this? Can you do that? And it got so weird and uncomfortable because like I rolled higher on my attack and took him out, and then he was viscerally upset, just really in a way that I'll never be able to completely explain or understand. But I still was like, I might have been like 6 or 7 beers deep at that point. And so I was just like instigating it. I was like, I guess I'm just the greatest D&D player of all time. And it's the dumbest, silliest thing in the world. But man, do people get weird with PvP and D&D. I don't think that unless I really trusted the people, I know my cousin who was DMing that will never allow that again. He's just like, I was so uncomfortable. Like the next morning I was like, hey, I apologize for that. That got weird. You know, you live and you learn, but I don't know how. Again, we're playing make believe. What are we doing aside from the world's greatest game? And it's, you know, you get passionate about it. So that's my PvP experience.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like it harkens back to what Prime was saying and what you were saying. You know, it's like you really, when you get into it, you become these people, and like in those moments, it is so. You know, you put it best. It's visceral. It's visceral rather. It's palpable. You know, you really just like you feel what they're feeling, and I think it's like because make believe. You know, you keep alluding to this being, you know, the best game, and in so many ways it is, because it's got like insert SpongeBob meme, the power of imagination.
Imagination. You know? Yep.
Yeah.
I don't like that I knew exactly which SpongeBob meme immediately, but
yeah, we were on the same page.
Yeah.
But it's like it sucks you in, and so I guess what we'd love to hear you talk about would be, you know, what is it about D&D? If you can distill it down into its essence, like beyond what we already have, I suppose. What is it about this? And like, I guess actually another way to look at this is like, what did you do before? You know, like D&D has kind of taken over so much of your thought process, but like, how has this become everything for you?
How much time do you have? So
All night.
yeah. So you started to ask a certain question before, which is what is it that you love about D&D, which I have kind of gone into, but I was preparing an answer, which is improv and voice acting are two things that I am not good at that I fucking love. There are fewer things that give me the endorphins that those things do when you're riffing back and forth, which is basically just role play platonic masturbation, where you're just literally talking to yourself in two character voices, but you're putting on a show for the people you're talking to them, and you're just enjoying yourself, and then you get to bounce off of other people who are also saying really asinine shit, and everyone's laughing and everyone's having fun, and it's like getting, it's like improv where the entire audience is participating and not judging you for your performance because they know you worked your dick off to be here and to be doing this for them. And so that's what I love about this. Now, I didn't find my passions until like literally 3 or 4 years ago. Like I'm turning 30 in like 2 months, and I still wake up sometimes and think, I wish I had an ounce of the passion that I have now for anything before like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. I loved platform fighters and Super Smash Brothers. I competed in Project M, which is just a modification of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I love Melee. So competitive esports, I was always like at the very bottom of a higher tier or a little bit higher than mid tier, and it's just such a blast to play those games and to win a good set. It gave me similar feelings.
Yeah.
But nothing like this. And then now, I guess I found out within the last few years, I like to talk because I have a podcast out of nowhere where I improv and I talk about video games, which are amazing. And I play D&D as much as I can. And it's just, I don't like the sound of my own voice, but I love talking. So yeah, that's,
we love the sound of your voice. That's why, and everyone, go listen to Trevor. I always mess up the name of the title.
Quick Summaries for Short Games. It's okay. It's a bit of a mouthful, and then you get used to it.
Yes, it's amazing. It's so wonderful, and we'll talk a little bit more about your show in a minute. As we get there.
Of course.
Yeah. So, Trevor, earlier today, we sent you a list of some statements. And so now is the part of the show where you are going to let us know which of those statements resonated with you. And then we're going to let you know what that says about your DM alignment. And then you're going to let us know if we're full of shit. And then we're going to let you know that we found it from a website, so it's not on us. But what is the line that most resonated with you out of those options?
It's Babe Ruth calling a shot right now. I'm going to, and I promise I wouldn't look this up. I didn't even know that you got it from online. But I am 110%. I'll let you roll for it because I'm a big contender for, like I said, yes, but. And I'm going to guess that is going to be chaotic neutral.
Ooh, I like it. All right. Well, it is, in fact, I guess technically it's chaotic neutral because it's true neutral. But since the other two are neutral good and neutral evil, we'll call it. Well, you know what? We'll call it neutral.
Yeah.
But
if true neutral is what it's supposed to be, that's fair. I would argue in typical narc fashion that a dice roll, you have natty 1s and natty 20s, and one's good, one's super good, one's super bad. And so isn't chaos rolling a die? Wouldn't that be the most chaotic part? Is like leaving everything up to chance?
Ooh.
You know what? Yes. And I'm going to give it to you. So I'll read both of those. I'll read the true neutral, and then we will do you said chaotic neutral, right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, done. Absolutely. Oh. So, neutral evil. The greatest tool in the... Wait, no, you're not neutral evil. What am I doing?
No, I was going to say, where did evil come from?
I'm so sorry.
Being railroaded by my
host.
By
No.
podcast host.
Never. Okay, true neutral.
D&D is supposed to be a freeing experience, and I am being railroaded here.
No. Don't worry, we'll just cut that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, wow.
True neutral.
Go ahead.
Neutral is a hard balance to strike. It's not perfection, as everyone's technique is personal. Perfect is what's right for you, but a neutral DM finds a path between permissive, strict, threat, and reward that usually appeals to everyone. The generalized approach draws from tips and tricks from lots of practice in playing multiple systems across a long gaming history. The neutral approach may give the appearance of being a little overdone, if not generic, and most DMs will fall into this category somewhere, but it isn't a bad thing, as every DM will have quirks that give their campaigns a unique touch and may lean slightly in one direction or another. And you lean right into chaos.
Abso-the-fuck-lutely. So what's a... Okay. All right.
Give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts.
Well, so yes. But it feels a little more like astrology to me, where they're like, okay, well, these all kind of similarly fit into most people's lives in one way or another. It's like trying to tell someone that you have ADHD and they're like, well, everyone deals with that. It's like, no, it's different.
You get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does feel a little bit like BuzzFeedy, but
It does.
that's half the fun of it.
But you know,
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't. That wasn't a criticism. That was going to be my opener into what I was, I guess, going to say, which is that it does apply to some degree to me. I want everything to be fair. I do my best to make sure that everyone is rewarded for their efforts and for what they want to do and their attempts and all that. But I think there's a little more. There's a little spice that's missing from the true neutral. That is the Trevor Robertson DM experience.
I actually agree 1,000,000%, and I think that you were bang on when you did the chaotic neutral, because I kind of skimmed this one and I was like, oh yeah, this is much better. So, chaotic neutral. Roleplay is often the foremost element that a chaotic neutral DM will focus on. They may
I almost spit out my beer. Sorry.
right? They may prefer a system that offers rules to support it, or just focus most heavily on it during gameplay. Weeks may go by without a rulebook being touched, or actual combat taking place, but the story will drive on, perhaps recklessly at times. Players may feel swept up by the momentum, but are likely to have a more memorable experience.
Wow. Yeah.
You can't see that I was nodding the entire time.
That sounds basically like, you know what? To circle it all the way back around, that's your Tinder bio.
Yes.
There you go.
Look at that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
I am at the risk of lengthening this a little bit. I'm curious about the chaotic good description.
Oh, absolutely.
Is it possible to? I just want to tune into that for a minute and listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. So, chaotic good DMs experiment and toy with the gaming system, perhaps even going so far as to produce their own, go off the books altogether, or even throw in seemingly unrelated games like chess or poker to change the pace. So long as everyone is enjoying themselves and the story is good, the rules can take a back seat. Chaotic good DM's freeform style may not be to everyone's taste, and if an experiment fails, it can make for a bad game, and it may be necessary at times to go back to basics. I'm not reading the second part anymore. I'm only reading the positive parts.
Yeah, agree.
Yep. No, that is to a... Okay, they are kind of both to a T. I am always the yes person, where they're like, okay, so I want to do this, and I'm like, yeah, fucking obviously we can do that. That's rad as shit. But I also, not completely intentionally, but like I said, I underlevel my stuff a little bit to make sure that they do feel like they are heroes, and I just love... I love the yes. I think yeses are just the most fun, as long as they know they can't get away with some bullshit, which I failed miserably, obviously, if we're circling back to the shepherd, circle, druid, shield staff, pack tactics piece of garbage that I love with all my heart.
I am actually going to be looking that up as soon as we wrap here. I'm like, I want velociraptors. What is this? I can do this, right?
Yeah.
He might have. So I don't know if he picked. I think he might have been like, okay, so it's this, but we're just going to like code it as this, which obviously I'm always for. I don't remember if it was just kind of this is what it's described as, but he picked a different animal for it. But I'm pretty sure because they had talons and bites, but what doesn't? on Roll20, I just literally got pictures of velociraptors and put them in as the tokens, and so it didn't really matter what it was supposed to be in 5e.
Yeah.
Well, luckily with our homebrew right now, I think I could get away with that. I mean, my mechanical platypus has 9 tails. So
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
and can, and the flying homunculus can inflict wounds with necrotic energy. So
Yeah. You can get away with all sorts of nonsense.
oh, it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, wow. Trevor, thank you so much for sitting down. It was a romantic dinner indeed. We learned a lot of food for thought, and now we'll hand the decanter, the plate, the fork, the speech stick to you, my friend. Where can we find you? What have you got going on? And yeah, tell the folks.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my name, as y'all know by now, Trevor Robertson. I host a podcast called Quick Summaries for Short Games, and all we do is we take games that take less than 10 hours to beat. Me and 3 alternating guests will beat that game, take notes on it, review it, dissect it, riff on it, joke on it, talk shit on it, gush over it, meaning nothing crude. I mean, like, we love it and we'll give it high praise. We give it a grade. I'm putting out 30-second to 1-minute videos now for specific games that I'm loving. So I'm doing a super quick summary for a short game. And by the time this episode is out, I should have at least 2 or 3 out there. The one I finished today is about Knockout City. It's great. So we're putting out content as often as we can. I want to do this more than twice a month. But in the meantime, that's what we're working with. We've got, 8 or 9 or 10 episodes out right now. They're amazing. The lovely hosts of this podcast are actually on an episode with me and our lovely editor, Scott Tilley, where we have Ori and the Blind Forest is our game of choice for that. So
Yes.
After you're done listening to this, go listen to that if you want to hear these other people talk, just because they're great.
Love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah. And where are the best places for people to find everything?
Oh, right. So my Twitter is TrevorQSSG, and my Twitch is TrevorQSSG, where I will stream different games, but also the Quick Summaries games. And my Insta, Twitter, everything is QSS Games for Quick Summaries for Short Games. And that's, Twitter, Insta, and I believe YouTube right now. On Spotify, Quick Summaries for Short Games is where you can find our stuff, or pretty much anywhere that you can find a regular podcast. Or even on Pandora. It took like a month, and there's no one who's going to listen to it on Pandora. But we're there, just so you know. Literally just for my dad, because he listens to Pandora. I'm like, here, maybe one day.
There you go.
That's amazing.
That's actually spectacular. Well, you heard the man. Go follow him on everything. Go listen to QSSG. And
great podcast. Wonderful.
We had
wonderful
so much
stuff
fun
going
on there.
That was a great time.
it was a hell of a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a blast. This also was a blast. This has been so much fun. During our little break where I went to go grab another drink, I came back and I was like, yeah, this actually has been amazing. So I'm very excited to get to listen to your other episodes, and you guys do a great job. I was worried a little bit, but it was amazing to be able to talk about one of the greatest games in the world.
Oh.
So thank you guys for that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Romantic Dinner with the DM. We are so excited to have you on our journey as we learn about the worlds and stories created by dungeon masters and game masters in this wonderful, wonderful medium of TTRPGs.
We've got new episodes coming out weekly, and if you're jonesing for new content in between, check out our YouTube.
Link below.
And follow us on twitch.tv/Arcad and Prime.
We'll see you next week and really hope that you enjoyed the episode. Bye.